Hey guys, Jalen here doing a pros and cons episode 9, I believe. I'm sorry if I lost track a little bit. But episode 9, let's get this started. We've got ninjas. Ninjas is a touchy subject for me because I'm not really fond of all Katana World decks. Skull Warriors is good, ninjas are honestly good maybe, but I don't know, they just don't have much to offer because mainly Katana World doesn't have much to work with. But, ninjas is I would say, a little bit more hyped up variant of Katana World, but not used as much because they don't have much to work with for what I would call good support. But they definitely don't have bad support, technically terrible support either. They're definitely still a viable deck. It's just Katana World's problem that makes them not as prominent to see nowadays, but they still have a good chance to be a good deck. But anyway, I'm here to bring you the pros and cons of ninjas, so let's get started. Alright, let's start off the pros. We have a pretty goddamn good draw power engine. Now, the thing about Ninja's draw power is it comes from your main monster 312 ninja named Electron Ninja Shiden, who has Cyber Analyze, which is honestly a cool name for an ability. And you discard a Ninja Arts card, pay a gauge, and draw 2 cards. Now, that's a really good ability because you're paying a gauge and then discarding one probably not needed card in your hand and then draw 2 cards. So it can get you right back in the game with this card with getting 2 more cards to your hand, which is really good. But the problem with this thing is its stats are just bad. And there's no way to power them up, so there's not much you can do with this weak Shiden. Shiden is still a great card nonetheless, but he's still got really bad stats. Decent damage output. I'm not trying to sugarcoat it going like it's good, and I don't want to slap it across the face and call it bad, but the damage output is meh at best. So I just count that as a pro. Ninja's damage output is pretty low compared to most decks nowadays, but it's still good. They have a few 1-crit monsters, about a really buttload of 2, and the very minimal amount of 3-crit cards. So their damage output is not terrible, but their damage output isn't high. So it's kind of hard to. This is why, not honestly, Weapon Ninjas is better because the new weapon Onimaru has 3-crit and you get pretty much three free attacks out of it, and it has 6,000 power. And I'll talk about stats when I mention 6,000 power when it comes to ninjas, because I'm gonna go on about this. But the item ninja is probably the best because you got really good, you had a better damage output going for you if you're using Onimaru or Zonkyo or the other version that's pretty much the same thing, the explosive ninja. Honestly, ninjas have terrible stats. I have not seen stats like this since my wizard deck. Like, these stats are atrocious for monsters. There's so many 5,000 power and below size 2s. Their defense is so low. Like, the only thing with high defense is the size 3s, technically, and, like, Linzo and maybe we can count the 5,000 defense like Kashin Koji and Mobile Ninja Jiraiya, but those aren't anything. Tsukikage's, both their stats are like good, of course, but really low defense, and Shiden has pretty low stats. Yamagarasu has pretty low stats. Hayate has pretty low stats. Saizo has pretty low stats. All the viable ninjas have low stats, which is pretty bad. So you have lots of problems against wall decks, but there's not a problem with that when it comes to the next pro of the deck. Middle ground monster removal card known as Geppetogiri. Geppetogiri is just unique to Katana World because when one of your monsters is destroyed, then you get to destroy one of your opponent's monsters. The best way to utilize this, like I've said in the Skull Warrior, is destroy the monster that's not attacked, since they'll probably destroy your monster during the battle phase. But the best way ninjas utilize this is by using a move monster such as Hayate or Yamagarasu, so then you move them to the center so they have to kill it. They'll kill it off, and then you can Geppetogiri and destroy a monster. So you can play around with your bad stats so your opponent goes minus by you using a form of monster removal, aka Geppetogiri, which is a really great thing this deck has. And another thing I want to count is, I'll count this as a separate thing because it technically is not, I want to call monster removal. It's like summoning stop. It's like stopping on the calls, which is a bit different because there's so many different things that go on when it comes to what happens during a summon. So I want to go over this. Hades Fall. Hades Fall is a pro in itself because it allows you to, I wouldn't say set up a drop zone, because the only way you can utilize this by using putting a Tsukikage if you're trying to get rid of a size 1 they might most likely call, and then you could have a Tsukikage target if you play Blade Master mode. Other than that, you're pretty much just dumping any of the monsters you'd most likely want to have in your hand, just so you can stop a summon. But at the same time, you pay 1 gauge, which is pretty minimal, and then you get to do 2 damage to your opponent and get rid of their monster, which is absolutely broken. So Hades Fall in itself is a really good utilizing tool for any Katana World deck, and which is why it must be used, because it allows you to deal with big plays. Big plays are stopped with Hades Fall, which you need to stop because your deck is very low in the form of defense and a very low form of stats. And let's get on to the next con. Link attacks. Link attacks are still prominent. Oh, but Jalen! Oh, the way Oboro Genbu works. Okay, here's 2 problems with Oboro Genbu just because of how ninjas and any Katana World deck plays. You play ninjas, you can play size 3. Ninjas, size 3s are prominent. You can use Mochi Tamba or you can use Wander to Gold. Honestly, use Mochi Tamba. Wander to Gold is a sideboard card. But that's for another video, probably by Joey. But Mochi Tamba will most likely go in your center. He get you a life, 6,000 defense, pretty decent. But my point about this is you cannot stop a link attack at all. So Oboro Genbu, when you have a center, useless. Also, you cannot utilize this with Shiden because it's a demon way. It's not a ninja arts. So you cannot discard this with Shiden. You usually wouldn't want to in the first place, but say you're in a low position, you're in a bad top decking situation, you have a Shiden on board, you're like, just need to draw a ninja arts card, you drew a monster, it's not going to help you, you charge and draw into a demon way, Oboro Genbu, and then you're just sitting there because you can't use that to your advantage. I'm not saying this will conflict like fucking hell, and you should discard this, but this card, honestly, doesn't help you in the long run, because once you run out of them, then you go back to your old state of being link attacked and you can never stop it. So, auto body replacement, Snake Gaze, even those are decent, good notifier things, but there's just not much to help Katana World in the situation of you get link attacked and then you're gonna cry in a corner. Decent size 3 lineup, decent. Honestly, the new trial deck card, Noble Ninja Mochi Tamba, is a lot better to use in the main deck than there is Wander to Gold. Wander to Gold is good, but he's only technically decent in my eyes when there's a monster on board, because you can wipe out monsters at the same time, like a Vermilion from Vanguard or something. But at the same time, that card is still really good option, but its stats take a little notice. Like, was it 6'3" or 6'2", 5"? So, I'd rather have a 7/2/6 that gives me a life for free, and then it has double attack. Now, all we have to talk about right now is how little gauge ninjas even use. There's honestly not much gauge. People always say you need 4 Clear Serenity, you need this much, you need Electric Terror. Electric Terror is a good card too. Definitely play it. But my point is, ninjas themselves aren't even like what? Electron Ninja Shiden, Mochi Tamba, if you main item blasting, and the secret swords, and Linzo, that's 5 cards that you use prominently, maybe, or even 6 if you play that, like I said, the item blasting. So 6 cards in general that can cost you any gauge at all. So how are they even gauge heavy? They're not. You use the weapon, okay, you might have 7, but it's most likely 6. So 6 prominent cards that cost you gauge, but most of them are 1s. 2 of them are 1s. 1 of them, 2 of them are 2. There's no arguing this. The ninjas do not cost that much gauge. Another great pro of the deck that is really, honestly, underrated in ninjas, Shinobi Scrolls is a great fucking card. Shinobi Scrolls allows you to play with a second hand in a sense. If you don't know what Shinobi Scroll does, it's a set spell. You don't have to do anything when you set it. You just set it, and then pretty much you pay gauge, put a card in your hand, a card in your hand to the soul, and then you draw a card. So you're paying gauge to draw a card. Really good. But Shinobi Scrolls pretty much act like another hand. You can throw in a ninja art spell in there, like Clear Serenity, or any other counters, like Item Blasting, and then throw them in there. Then you can use them from there. At the same time, you still have your regular hand. So you have a second hand to work with, and your opponent, just like your hand, doesn't know. So not only are they focusing on what could possibly be in your hand, like, what is in here? What is here? No, you also got to worry, what is down there? What is right in the set spell zone? But you can still use this to your advantage because it plays more mind games with your opponents. Also, you can, I'm pretty sure you can like set your lethal formation just so you can go set lethal formation face down, then set it again in the final phase, and then go bam. So you can pretty much just just put the card you're already gonna use into the soul, so then you can just draw a card, which is great. The last pro is yours impact is searchable. Searchable impact? I'll take that. Because Linzo, for a trial deck, allows you, when you pay 1 gauge and call him to the field, then you can add 1 Secret Sword lethal formation. Anyway, Linzo is absolutely great. He's got a 6,000 defense and 2 crit, so he's a really good card on his own as well. He may cost you a gauge, but he gets you a free impact. And if you have Clear Serenity in your deck, then you have a prominently good way of activating this. But since ninjas in its first place aren't really gauge heavy, you can really honestly just probably do that all in the same turn. Set a lethal formation, have a live Star Crusher or Shooting Star. But pretty much you have a really, really great control you've got with ninjas. You've got pretty good damage out. You could have pretty decent damage output. You got good monster removal. And best of all, you have a way to stop your opponent from doing a lot of things with Hades Fall and Star Crusher and Shooting Star. So you do have ways to stop your opponent, even though your deck is already pretty crippled by its own problems. But you still have a good way of doing your own things. We still got to get on to the cons, which are terrible defense. There is no defense in this deck. There is absolutely no fucking defense. There's nothing to do against Penetrate. I hate to do this to you, ninjas. I really do. But if someone's double linking your center, what is your response? Nothing. Nothing. Danger World goes, oh look, I'll link with fucking Medusa and Hysteric Spear. You're taking the 4 damage. You cannot body replacement it. Oboru Genbu's useless because you have a center. So it's kind of a problem for this deck to deal with Penetrate. Really, it honestly does have a problem with Penetrate. No way to get back its resources. When it comes to Skull Wars, it's like, oh, just keep summoning with Return for the Underworld. But you can't do that in ninjas. Ninjas don't have a monster revival. They don't get monsters from the drop. They don't have anything like that. So once you lose cards, they're just stuck there. And you draw probably so much because of Shinobi Scrolls and Shiden, you're running through your deck pretty fast as well. And you get to add with Linzo. Honestly, you're deck thinning so much, you'll probably run out of cards by the time you're trying to look for things. I mean, you can eventually probably draw into answers maybe, but the problem is you're not going to be able to get back a lot of things. You're running out of cards pretty fast already in the game. You may be trying to get more to your hand, but once that hand's going to be diminished by your opponent's multiple attacks that you can barely guard against, or you're losing monsters pretty quickly and there's no way to stop them. There's no way to get back the monster you got lost from Hades Fall. There's just so many things that just allow you to not be able to come back from many situations once you're starting to run out of cards pretty quickly. So that's the main problem with the deck. So that is the pros and cons of ninjas. All I have to say for the final verdict is very decent deck. This deck is decent at best, but we do not see any support coming to them anytime soon. So for right now, it's honestly best not to usually use ninjas. You can still use these as a fun deck or even a competitive deck, but you have to get your shit together when when it comes to just making ninjas work. But honestly, Devlon on Team Burning Infinity here has made that work out for him, as you've seen from his top 4 ninja deck. So we do have people that are able to make ninjas a very viable deck in the eyes of the player. But honestly, ninjas don't have much to work with, even compared to Skull Warriors. Katana World in general just doesn't have much to work with. But now that I'm done with Katana World, you probably know that by now. So hope you guys like this video. Subscribe to Team Burning Infinity for more amazing buddy fight videos. And you guys honestly didn't remember to comment last week, but I'm being nice by letting ninjas be on this week since no one requested it for this week. You have to request for this week. You cannot just expect me to do the last week. You only requested Dual Dragons this week, but I kindly did ninjas because that was the tie with 72 pillars. So honestly, guys, remember to comment down in this video what you want to see on episode 10, because episode 10 should be something special. And since I'm done with Katana World and more Katana World stuff, I'm not doing another variant of ninjas like the Burn one. That's honestly pretty much the same deck as this, just Burn. But either way, see you guys later. Jalen going out.